Can you see the screen now?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, I hope you can see the screen now. So let's begin. So what we are going to discuss today is about how to approach a question paper, any type of competitive exam for question paper, especially CSIR net. Okay, so let's see. Now, the first thing that you have to know is the time. So the whole exam is going to be of 3 hours. It will be 3 hours. And in this 3 hours, you will be using only a maximum of 2.5 hours for solving the questions. Possibly. Now this will vary with the length of the paper. If your paper is too lengthy, this time won't be sufficient. But then at certain times, the question paper is very easy. So we'll take only 2.5 hours to run through the question paper, mark the answers. Then what is the need for the next 30 minutes? You have 30 minutes left, right? The other 30 minutes will be used for checking your answer, which is very important because in a hurry-burry, you might mark wrong answers as well. Okay, so preferably it is 2.5 hours or 2 hours 45 minutes for marking your answers, and you will be taking the remaining 15 to 30 minutes for rechecking your answer at the end. I'll be explaining the interface of CSIR net as well. So I'll be taking that as a separate session. Okay, now your question paper or your mark that you get, your score comes out of 200. It comes out of 200. Now, till date, the cutoff has never gone above 120. The maximum was 119 or something. It has never gone above 120. Now, this is for general category. Again, if you are you come under reservation category and all, again, this mark will come down. Okay, so what our aim should be is to score at least 120 marks. Not at least, to the max. To the max, our aim should be to get 120 marks. Now, to get 120 marks is a bit tricky. Why? Because in CSIRnet, there is something called negative marking in all the sections. So you have basically 3 sections, section A, section B, and section C. You have 3 sections. Okay, section A, B, C, out of which in totality, there are many options that you have. The score that you'll be getting will be out of 200 and the maximum has been 120 till date. Now to get 120, now listen to this very carefully. To get 120, it is always safe to mark at least 140. 140 to 150 if possible. 140 is fine. Why? Because some questions might go wrong. Might go. Even though you are 100% confident, there might be some twist in the question that might give you negative marks. Okay, so this extra 20 you have put so that it manages your negative mark so that you don't miss out your JRF ka score. Okay, so we'll mark for 120 and we'll expect at least one. Sorry. You will mark for 140 so that you get 120. Are you getting that point? Is the screen clear? The screen is not clear on my phone. Can you please type yes or no in the chat box, please? Okay, so that is one thing. Now, see, there are 3 sections. First section is going to be aptitude. Second and third section, B and C, is going to be our subject, chemistry subject. out of which you will start solving your question paper from section C. No matter how long the question paper is, no matter how easy the question paper is, you have to start answering your question paper from section C. Always. Why? There are two advantages. One advantage is the number of questions that you have in section C in total is 60. There will be 60 questions, out of which 20 is going to be physical, 20 is going to be inorganic, and 20 is going to be inorganic and organic. Okay, 20 each of inorganic, organic, and physical is what you have. But out of the 60, you need to mark only 25. So we have a lot of choice over here. So that is the reason that you have to first go to section C and then start solving section C first. That is the first point. You have a lot of choice. Second is, for each correct answer of section C, you will get 4 marks. But if it goes wrong, it will be -1. That is the problem. Okay, now see, imagine that you marked 2 questions thinking that it is right. So what do you expect? You expect 4 into 2, 8 marks. But let's say that one of this was correct and one was wrong. So for the correct question, you will get 4. For the wrong question, you won't get 4. And in addition to that, there will be -1. So in total, you will get only 3. This is the reason why students are not able to qualify CSIR NET as easily as GATE. Because in GATE, there is only one section where there is negative marking. In remaining, they removed the negative marking. Okay, so you have to be careful with this. You cannot make any wild guesses. You cannot put any random guesses on your paper, because that is going to cost you 5 marks ka difference. See, you expected 8, but then you got only 3. So for every expected answer which goes wrong, you're losing 5 marks. 4 because you don't get that, -1 because it was wrong. You're getting the point? So the thing is, you have to be very careful, and as you have a lot of choice, you can choose between the questions. Now, again, you might not get 25, the all 25, that is totally fine. If you're able to mark at least 20 to 21 questions, it's well and good. Because 20 questions in the first half of the exam is going to directly give you 80 marks. 20 correct questions, to be precise, 20 correct questions. So 20 into 4, 80. So this is the first thing that you have to understand, that you will be starting from section C. Now, if you have been practicing conventionally, doing it in an order, for example, I had this problem where for university exam, I cannot start it from backwards. No, I don't know why, but then I cannot do that. But having such weird, habits are going to put you in trouble. So start practicing. Whenever you do questions, you will always start doing those questions which give you highest marks. Okay, so that is going to be the first strategy. Now, section B and A. In section B, again, this is our subject. You will get questions only from our subject, where out of 40 questions, you're supposed to answer 35. So can you see your choice is less? Your marks are also less. You'll get only 2 marks for correct answer. And if it goes wrong, you will lose -0.5. Okay. Now, out of this 35, if you thoroughly prepare at least one, for example, at least physical or inorganic or organic, at least one, you can easily do at least 5 to 6 questions. I'm telling you, if you can do at least, this is a minimum. So 5 out of 35 is very small number. You will be able to do even more than that. Okay. So that's enough. Now, section A is completely aptitude based, not marks, questions. Okay, let's put 10 questions. Here you have 20 questions, let's say. Section A is completely aptitude, general aptitude, and you have 20 questions, out of which you have to mark any 15. Correct answer will give you 2 marks. Wrong answers will give you minus 0.5. This is how it is. Okay? Give the least amount of time to the aptitude section. What students usually do is they sit for the aptitude session for the first 30 to 40 minutes because this comes first in the paper. But no, switch to section C and start solving from section C. That's where you have to spend your time. If you're able to find 25 confident questions, well and good. Because in one go, you're getting 100. Then from these two sections, you need only 20 marks and that's going to be very easy. So are you getting the point? We have to be confident now. No matter how deep you prepare, you will end up marking wrong questions because of the pressure, because of the tension, everything. Okay, silly mistakes, mathematical errors. We were not able to memorize the formula, etc., etc. That's why I said instead of 120, we'll try to mark it for 140. So that including the negative marks, we come and reach till 120. Okay? So, two most important things. Your focus should be on section C. And the way you navigate should be section C to B to A. That's how you'll be going. Is that clear? And does that make sense? Okay? That's how we have to do. Now, until this date, they have not changed the pattern of the exam. So I'm not talking about the changes, not even the one which was proposed in the notification. So we'll go with this, which was already mentioned or which has been followed since 2011. If there are any changes, I'll be updating that. So is this clear? So you have to take your time to solve the questions from section C, because when you start your question paper, you will be much more fresh, because as time passes on, you will look at the timer, you will see that the time is ticking, and what will happen is you will build pressure in yourself and you won't be getting time when you reach to section C. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. Now, at times, what might happen is you might feel that what if I know more than 25, I'll mark 30. Please don't do that. Please don't do that, because they'll be taking only the first 25, whether it is right or wrong. Let's say the first 25 questions, you had 5 questions wrong, and from 26th to 30th question, you marked it right. That doesn't make sense to them. They'll take only the first 25. That is some other thing that I had to mention. Okay? Yes. So this is again an approximate. It will vary with the length of the paper, but then this is just a suggestion. Always have your eyes on the clock. You will be having a timer at the right top position of the interface. You have to assign time for each of the section. So first 1.5 hours you can give to part C, because for each question you're getting 4 marks, and that is fine. 1.5 hours for section C is worth it, because you'll be able to do 20. Let's say you're able to do 20 questions, well and good. Okay, section B are pretty much direct because that won't be lengthy. There are certain cases where section B questions turns to be lengthy. You won't be doing that in first go, which is very important. I'll be explaining this in the next session, where I'll have the interface of the CSIR exam as well, because you should not solve the question paper in one go. That's not the way you do it. You read it once, Mark the answers which are very easy. If you have prepared well, you will be able to differentiate between questions that are very easy and questions that are tough. For example, if you get a question from zero order kinetics, your brain will tell you, this is easy, let's do it. So you'll mark that. You will answer the question. But let's say that you have a question from chemical kinetics, which is from correlation theory, which is very big. You have a lot of calculation to do. You will keep it aside. There is an option in CSIR to mark it for review. I'll explain that in the next session. Mark it for review. This is a very important tool that you have to practice. So when I release the test, I'll make you practice the same. Mark it for review. That means once you have completed one round of solving the problem, then again you will come back. Section C only. For example, let's say, are you getting my point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say these many questions from section C. First question, I know, but it is lengthy. I will mark it for review. 2, I don't know. I'll skip it. 3, I know the answer, very easy. I'll mark the answer. 4, I know the answer. And again, it's very easy. I'll mark it. 5th, I don't know. I'll skip it. 6th, I know, but then I know it will take a lot of my time. I know it will take a lot of my time because there is a lot of derivation. There is a lot of calculation. I will mark it for review. 7, I know the answer. 8, I don't know. I'll skip. So this is my first round of solving the question paper. Okay. So I have got already, let's say all my answers are correct. I have already got 3 into 4, 12 marks. In the next round, what I'll be doing is I'll come back and then I'll sit for my first question. I'll spend 5 to 6 minutes for my first question and then I'll mark the answer. Then coming down, I have marked question number 6 for review. I'll spend 5 to 6 minutes and then I'll answer. That's the way you have to solve in rounds. You have to solve each section in rounds. Why? Why do you need that? Because for each right answer, you will get 4 marks. Whether it is lengthy, whether it is short, that doesn't matter. You're not going to get any extra marks if you solve a lengthy question. No. So what we'll do, you will try to find the first shortest 25 questions that you know. And still, for example, you were able to find only 18. Then you will come back in round 2. And then you will sit for questions that take time. Got it? So that is the second thing. First thing was you will start from section C. Second thing is even though you start from section C, you will be solving it then in rounds. And there is one more thing. I don't know whether it will be possible now because in earlier days, these 6 questions used to be in groups. For example, first it would be 20 questions from organic, and then it would be 20 questions from inorganic, and then it would be 20 questions from physical. So depending on your strength, some students would be very good in organic. So you can go to directly to the set of questions corresponding to organic and solve them. But nowadays they do mix up at times. They'll put physical in between organic, they put inorganic in between physical, etc. So I'm not explaining this point. Okay. So instead of going section wise or instead of finding organic, inorganic and physical questions, you will be solving them in rounds. Okay. Again, never ever take 3 hours to solve the entire question paper. As I said, you will be taking 1.5 for section C. It's okay even if it goes to 1 hour and 45 minutes. And then you will take another half an hour or 45 minutes for section B. And you will be spending your least amount of time for section A. Okay? For example, it's okay even if you give 20 to 30 minutes. You have to, this is very important, you have to give some time for your final check. Because in that hurry-burry, If you mark wrong answers to the questions that you know, the regret that you will be having after coming out of the examination hall won't be small. Okay? So it's always worth it to keep at least 15 to 20 minutes for the final check. So in the modern interface, you even have an option for that. For example, I want to, let's say that I understood midway that the question paper is very lengthy and I'm not going to get any time for my recheck. Let's say. So then what I'll do, I'll be marking 4, and this marking, I'll explain how to mark this in the next session. I'll mark this 4th one. It is just for me to remind or as a reminder that I should come back and recheck this answer once again. I have to recalculate. So there is a mark for review like that as well. These are of 2 types. These are of 2 types, which I'll be detailing in the next session. Okay? So you have to find time to recheck your answers. You can mark it in the modern interface of CSIR NET exam. Also, you have to solve the question paper in round, and the navigation pattern should be from section C to B to A. That's how you'll be doing. Spend maximum amount of time to collect marks from section C because that is the heavy weightage area. And those that take time, you will keep it aside. You will mark it for review. Okay, so this is the takeaway. Any queries? I'll take up if there are any questions. Okay, so that's how we have to approach a question paper. So when we put our exams over here, I'll be putting questions of 2 marks and I'll be putting questions of 4 marks. You're supposed to do it the other way around. Okay, heavy weightage marks first. Yes, any questions, or we shall move to the summary part? So we have half an hour left. Let's. Shall we? Okay, I think there is no more query. Okay. Okay. So this is the summary of the first part of chemical kinetics until integrated rate equations. I have already written so as to save time. The first thing is the difference between rate of the reaction, rate of disappearance, and rate of appearance. Rate of disappearance, rate of appearance, and rate of the reaction. What is the difference? The only difference is in these 2 cases. In the first 2 cases, that is rate of disappearance and rate of appearance, you don't involve the stoichiometric coefficients, which are X and Y. You don't involve them. Provided the question is to calculate the rate of disappearance, calculate the rate of appearance, calculate the rate of formation, calculate the rate of consumptions. So if they have asked us to calculate so and so relating to disappearance or appearance, you do not consider the coefficient. So for the reactant, it's just going to be changes in the concentration of the reactant by dt. You will be putting a minus sign. And with respect to the product, it's just going to be changes in the concentration of the product with time. That's all. But a lot of you had a question, a doubt for a question where they asked the relation between X or the relation between the disappearance and appearance. Okay, so please understand that in the question, if they ask us to relate, the rate of disappearance and rate of appearance, you have to write the rate of the reaction first, without which you cannot express it. So for the rate of the reaction, it is going to be 1 by the coefficient of the reactant into minus dr by dt, and that is going to be equal to 1 by y, changes of the product by time. So can you see the difference? Here you have stoichiometric coefficients when you express the rate of the reaction, but then when you just have disappearance and appearance, you don't take into consideration the coefficients. Now let's say my question is, how is the disappearance of R related to the formation of the product? Tell me the answer. How is my disappearance of the reactant related to the product? How is it related? How much times is the disappearance compared to the product formation? Tell me the answers in the comment box, please. The question is, how is the rate of disappearance? So let's say I have to write it over here. My question is, how is my rate of disappearance related to my rate of product formation? Okay. Now let's say that this is some alpha. So my rate of disappearance is alpha times product formation. What is the value of alpha? Check, dear. Is it y by x or is it x by y? Yes, it is x by y. That is the point that you have to understand. This is the disappearance itself. This is formation of the product itself. But if the question is to find the relation between them, please do not write it as rate of disappearance is equal to rate of appearance. Many students asked this doubt to me personally. It's not like that. If you have to relate them, you will have to use the coefficient, and that coefficient is related in this case as x by y. Is that question clear? I think this was the first question which was done in the class. Is that concept clear? So if the question is just to find the rate of disappearance, you will be doing just minus dr by dt. If your question is to find the rate with respect to rate of the reaction, if your question is to find the rate of the reaction with respect to R, then you will consider the coefficient. Is that point clear? Can you give me a thumbs up if it is clear? So if the question is to find a relation, you need the stoichiometry, without which you cannot relate. Okay. Now, there are processes which proceed very slowly, like rusting of iron, forming of diamond, forming of fuel, etc., which are very slow. Can we use chemical kinetics of or the normal equations that we learn over here for such reactions? No. There are reactions which are very quick. For example, you have explosions. You have rapid precipitations. The moment you mix two solvents together, you get a precipitate. Can we use the chemical kinetics formula over there? No. Where can we use them? We can use the chemical kinetics, whatever we are learning, the theoretical aspects, the experimental order, integrated rate equation, whatever it is. It can be applicable only to those reactions which proceed with a moderate speed. Okay? It can be used only for reactions that proceed with a moderate speed. Now, we can see that there is a negative sign put over here for the rate of disappearance. And even for the rate of the reaction, with respect to the reactant, you have put a negative sign over here. Why? What is the significance of putting a negative sign over there? It is because the rate of a reaction is always positive. You can eliminate certain options with this concept as well. I have put those questions in the assignments. So rate of the reaction is always going to be positive, and hence you need negative along with the reactant, whether it is disappearance or the rate of the reaction. Okay, so very important. Without knowing this, you cannot move to part 2 of chemical kinetics. You should know how to write rate of disappearance. You should know how to write rate of the reaction. You should know where coefficient comes into play. You should know where the coefficient doesn't come into play. Is it okay? Is it thorough now? I know some of you might have not joined or might have not seen the video, but still from whatever explanations that I have given, is the concept clear? Can you please give me a thumbs up? Yes, okay. Now the next one, so whatever rate that we are writing over here, this is also called differential rate. It is also called theoretical rate. That means by just looking at the question, by just looking at the reaction, we can write the expression. That means it's entirely theoretical. Now there is something called experimental rate. Experimental rate is determined by a law which is called the law of mass action. According to the law of mass action, let's say you have some reaction AA plus BB gives products. The rate of the reaction R is directly proportional to concentration of the reactants raised to some powers. Very important. Raised to some powers. So I have put the power of A as P and I have put the power of B as Q. There might be cases where P is equal to A and Q is equal to B. That means their respective coefficients. So if they are equal, then such reactions are called elementary reactions. Elementary reactions means they are one step. They are one-step reactions. So the processes that happen just in one step, you mix A and B, you get the product. There is no intermediate, there is no transition state. Such reactions are called elementary. And in elementary reactions, your powers will be equal to your stoichiometric coefficient. Very, very, very important. You have to search in the question whether this term of elementary is given. If you miss this, you will mess up with the question. So it might seem very, very small, a very small concept, but then if you miss this word in the question, you will end up making a mistake. Okay. Next is a case where the powers are not equal to the stoichiometric coefficient. Such reactions are called complex reactions. What are complex reactions? Complex reactions are where you have intermediates, you have multiple steps, you have transition states. So if you just mix A and B, you won't get products. Okay, so such reactions are called complex reactions. Now, when you add this P plus Q, you get a new stuff, which is called the order. That is called the order. So the addition of the powers corresponding to the reactant is called order. Now, for the elementary reaction, order is also called molecularity. I think once they have asked this, but if you know this concept, it's good. Okay. So is the second box clear? You can have reactions that are elementary. You can have reactions that are complex. Elementary reactions means the respective powers, which are called the order, will be equal to the stoichiometric coefficient. And if it is complex, those powers won't be equal to their respective stoichiometric coefficients. It would be some random numbers. That cannot be written theoretically. It has to be found from experimental validation only. Is it okay? you please respond? Okay. Yes. Now, in order to remove this proportionality constant, proportionality sign, there is a proportionality constant which is introduced, which is called the rate constant. So we know that rate is going to be equal to rate constant into concentration of A to some power n, where n is called the order of the reaction. Now, this is very important. They have played with this concept a lot of times. Order can be positive, it can be negative, it can be a number with a decimal point, it can be fractional, it can even be zero. Anything can be possible for order of the reaction. Order can be anything, but rate of the reaction can only be positive. Only be positive. Now, what is the use of knowing the unit of rate constant? So sometimes you will get direct question to write the unit of rate constant. Let's say the order n is equal to 1 by 3. You might get questions like that. Apart from that, they'll give a question, a big question, where they won't mention the order. All that they'll be saying is the order of the reaction is per minute. That's all. And then they'll give a big question. A is colliding with B, it has got some radius, and then it has got a diffusion coefficient. You have to find so and so, something like that. So they'll be just taking this point, or they'll be just giving this hint for finding the order, for which this equation is very important. How to find the order? From the unit of rate constant. Rate constant is equal to moles per liter, the whole raised to 1 by n. Sorry, the whole raised to 1 minus n per second. Okay, so if you put n is equal to 0, your unit of rate constant will be moles per liter per second. If you put n is equal to 1, your rate constant will be 1 minus 1 is 0, so it will be per second or per time. Okay, so on and so forth. We have already done this, so I'm not repeating. I usually cannot remember this equation. I forget whether it is 1 minus n or n minus 1. I get confused. So I start from this point. I start with rate is equal to rate constant into concentration to the power n. So rate constants can be arranged in this manner, where rate is always concentration per time, which is moles per liter per time. And my concentration is moles per liter, the whole raised to n. And then I'll rearrange. Understand that molarity, molar, is moles per liter or moles per decimeter cube. You have to know that 1 liter, you have to know that 1 liter is equal to 1 decimeter cube and 1 ml is equal to 1 centimeter cube. Very important. Very important. Okay. So I'll be stopping over here. Are there any queries? So there is another portion as well for integrated rate equation. I'll be taking up that summary along with graphs in the next session. And also I'll be introducing the interface of the CSIR. How can you mark questions for revision? How can you mark questions for review, etc. Okay. Apart from that, for today's session, this is all. If there are any queries, you can ask your questions. If there are any, otherwise that's all. Okay. So very important that you make a formula sheet. I'll be uploading this. Once I complete the part 1, I'll be uploading this because you can solve most of the problems from physical chemistry by just having this compressed formula book. You can do a lot with this. Okay. All right. Sure. So that's all from my side. If there are any queries, I'll take up the queries. Otherwise, that's all. Stop the recording.